Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Hey everybody, it's the Cannon Cruisers. I'm JD.
And I'm Randy, and today in our summer special of sports...
That's what we're calling it, I guess.
We call it something different every single time.
Yes.
We checked out the 1984 sports film, American sports film, The Natural, based on the 1952 novel of the same name.
That's right, Randy. Who's in this movie?
Well, it's a little film directed by, tell me if you heard this director before, Barry Levinson.
Never heard of him.
With a cast that includes Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth.
I don't think I've heard of any of those names before, Randy. We're really digging deep for this movie.
I know, but Barbara Hershey should be recognizable to you as she was the second lead in, or the main lead, in Shy People.
Okay.
As the woman who lives out in the bayou.
Well, there you go. There's somebody we recognize at the very least.
And this movie, if you've never seen it before, if you haven't watched any popular culture in the 90s and onwards, because this movie is very heavily referenced in things, is about a man who plays baseball.
Yes.
You might say that he's a natural at it.
He is. And that's it.
That's basically the plot. So that's the end of the episode.
That's the whole movie. There's nothing else to the film at all.
Okay, so it goes throughout his life from his childhood to his rookie year in the major leagues. So you see him as a kid, you see his father die, you see the creation of his bat, his iconic Wonder Boy.
Wonder Bat's what it was called in The Simpsons when they parodied it.
Yes. You see him at his young cockiness before, shocker, he is shot by a stalker.
Yeah. And laid out and is told he has to quit the game because he can't play anymore.
And then when he's in his 30s, mid-30s, he finally gets his chance at the major leagues.
Yeah, after 16 years of struggling on his own in the middle of nowhere, struggling up the ranks, he finally gets put on a major league team, and that's where this movie is.
That's what the majority of this movie takes place at, yes.
So, Randy, what were your general impressions of The Natural from 1984? Since I don't know if you've ever saw it before, because I never did.
Oh boy, did The Simpsons parody this many, many times. As did Family Guy.
As did a lot of
As
things.
did Looney Tunes. As did any cartoons you watched in the late 80s, early 90s, and 2000s.
Yep.
This movie, which is 40 years old now,
Yeah, it is.
has been parodied a million times.
And you'd figure with a movie that is that...
And it's not just the one scene that we see. It is many scenes from the movie is parodied and referenced and homaged.
And you figure with all of that, the movie itself would be talked about a bit more than it actually is, because nobody really talks about The Natural anymore, which is unfortunate, because I think there's quite a lot in the movie.
Well, part of that is that America's, let's say North America's love affair with baseball has kind of, teetered off, has struck out.
Well, it's not quite Angels in the Outfield. That would come for a little later than this.
Yeah, it's what it is that baseball's importance in the culture is not as big as, let's say, basketball.
I guess
or
that's
even
true.
hockey now.
I guess that's true, though. The mythological element of the sport is also played up in how the story itself unfurls, because there's a lot of there's a lot of influence from Greek and Arthurian mythology, and according to from you told me, the original book was more heavily based on Arthurian mythology.
Yes, because you have Roy Hobbs, in the movie is played by Robert Redford, who is meant to be in the novel based on King Arthur. Pops Fisher, who's the Fisher King. You have the Sword and the Stone, which is Wonder Boy, the bat that he created from a tree. And then certain elements of it will parallel and
like the team itself.
Yeah, and the team, because they're the knights. It's a round table. Actually, sorry, it's a triangle. It's a diamond.
Yeah, the diamond, yeah. There's a lot of that in the movie. And in the actual movie itself, they tried to add in a bit of Greek mythology on top of it as well.
Yeah, in the movie they added in that there's that element, but it's more Percival looking for the Holy Grail. But then they lean heavily into Odysseus looking for his way back home, which does it mean the game? Is it the girlfriend that he abandoned before he got shot and in his teenage years?
What exactly is
What is home? What is he looking for? And what he's looking for, honestly, by the end is just that he loves the game.
He completed his journey and he returned home.
To his what we assume his now wife and his son that was born out of wedlock, and we only heard about later on in his life. The other thing that I find important, because we've been talking about this a lot as we've gone through this sports special, is that how these films influence what comes after it.
Oh, yeah.
And the only conversations I really see the Natural popping up in is when you start talking about baseball movies. Automatically they go The Natural, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams. And all of them fundamentally go on that whole entire mythology of baseball.
Oh, this is definitely one of the most well-known ones.
And this is one of the most well-known ones. And it's not just because of Robert Redford. It's a pretty stacked cast. Like I said, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Wilford Brimley. It's a crazy cast for a baseball movie.
Yes, and also the cinematography and shooting in the film makes everything look so gorgeous. Like everything about the movie looks really good.
Barry Levinson never did a canon film. Okay,
no,
he is a director that is too good for those types of things. But this was only his second directorial film.
It's like the movie itself, like the way it uses the storm motif quite a bit, like after the storm, during the storm, how the lightning affects what goes on in the play. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, and at the same time, there's a lot of really cool shots, like how at the beginning when she kills herself, you don't really know she kills herself because they don't show you like literally lifting the gun and killing herself. She's just there in one shot, and the next shot she's just not. And that's it. That's how you learn.
Yeah, she shoots. She shoots Rob Hobb. Is that his name again?
Roy Hobbs.
Roy Hobbs. Yeah. Not to be confused with baseball player Roy Robb.
Roy Redford.
Yeah.
Robert Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Robert Hobbs.
Yep.
Yeah. She shoots herself, but you don't learn about that till later in the movie. You don't really know what happened until later on, which gives you a lot of context. Like the movie itself is very well structured, and even though it's over 2 hours long, it earns every bit of its length. Nothing really feels out of place.
Yeah, there's nothing I would say that you would really need to cut to make this movie more concise, because everything there is necessary. Like there's no fat in this movie.
No, it's the story deserves the length.
And not just the story, the performances make it deserve that length, because I was researching on my phone and checking the trivia. It's like I was still watching the movie, and I was still following the movie. Yeah. And it was, after some point, it was kind of hard to look away, because it is just that beautiful of a movie to watch.
You just want to know exactly how he's going to get through this and what exactly is going to be on the screen next, because there's a lot, like I said, even though it's a baseball movie and it takes place in the 30s, somehow every single shot still really reels you in. It looks really good. The cinematography is striking. Like the usage of shadows, especially with the judge, is very well done. The lighting.
I am the judge and I sit in the dark.
Yep. And every time he's involved, there's always a trick with the lighting or the shadows. There's a lot in the film.
It's like even in broad daylight, he will be shadowed.
Yeah.
As you see in the scene in the hospital.
There's always somehow, some way. Every bit of the movie is well thought out. Like, one of the things I was wondering at the beginning of the movie, because there's the jump, obviously, to 16 years later. But, and I was wondering at the time, is it going to be like the first part of the movie where you're in the past and learning about him? Is this going to feel superfluous, or like, are you going to think maybe they could have just added this in later? But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense that the movie was structured the way it was.
And it was chronological, because you actually got to see the kid grow and what he went through.
Because the story was actually about following his entire journey. And at the same time, while the other characters are learning about him, it's not necessary for the audience to know that. We already learned all of that. And what's important for us is how he deals with how they learn it.
Yeah, with his grief for the loss of his father, who was struck dead suddenly from a heart attack when he was a boy.
There's a lot of subtlety.
His father, who whose one dream was to see his son become a baseball player.
Yeah, and it
which
happened.
which ends up paralleling very well with spoiler when in the audience at the end in his final game you have his ex-girlfriend and his son watching him play, and the son just really just ever wanted to see his father play the game.
And he did.
Yeah.
And it also came around with the other characters in the movie, like the Bat Boy, who was looking up to him, and he wanted to make a bat just like his hero did. And what ended up happening is his hero ended up making the bat with him, and that's the bat that won the game.
Yeah.
So, like, passed on.
It's as she tells him, because he's telling the story that it's like, we have the lives we've learned and the lives we lived. And it's like, he's going like, what he wanted was if he hadn't been shot when he was 19, he would have been the best of the best in the game. And that he would have beaten every record, and you would see him walking down the street and you would go, that is Roy Hobbs, the best player that ever was. And she tells him that, no, there's the life you learned and the life you lived. And there's all the young boys who look up to you, and people might forget their name, but these kids will always remember you because of how important you were to them. And which is shown with the Bat Boy and with his son, who's...
You pass it on, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been passed on to the final shot of him playing baseball with his son, like playing catch.
Which is how the movie started, where it was passed on to him from his father, and he passes it on at the end. That's natural. That's natural.
It's poetry, JD. It rhymes.
It does, actually. Legitimately in this case, not like a joke, like Star Wars.
I'm not making fun of... the quote is a Star Wars quote.
It's not like that. It actually does in this case, because everything in the movies just seems very well thought out, very well written, very well directed, acted, cinematography. Everything works to the film's benefit, and you can see why... Well, you can see why this didn't win Best Picture, and it probably should have.
Yeah, that was kind of a shame for this movie here.
Because it really is. It's one of those movies where you just watch it and you just feel like, this just feels like a classic movie.
And it is a classic movie. It's
every bit of it is just like, is film at its best, every aspect of it. Nothing feels out of place.
It's like, let's put it this way. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and know what they don't have on here? A section that says accolades.
Yeah.
They don't have something that says reception. It's just like, people like the movie. It's a really great movie.
People like the movie. It did really well, and it was subject to a lot of homages, parodies, and all that.
Except that, it's in the 1001 movies you need to watch before you die. It's on AFI's top 100 list of best directed films, best films, outstanding film.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a very important film.
There's a lot to it, and it's definitely, like I said, definitely worth seeing even now, because... Even though the sport might not be as popular as it once was, everything in the movie still resonates really well.
And it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. 8 nominations, 3 wins.
Yeah, what did it win for?
That's what I'm going to find out right now. Honorary awards, humanitarian awards. That's 2025.
Academy.
The Academy Awards, it just kind of doesn't give me what they actually won. But for the Academy Awards, the nominees were Best Actress, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction and Sound Set Direction, Best Music.
Oh, that's the word. Those are the awards they give you when they don't want to give you a nomination for Best Picture.
Yeah, no, it's basically saying 8 wins, 3 wins overall, which was a Grammy Award, a Ho Chi Film Award, and
the music is phenomenal,
a Heartland Film Award for director.
So all of that I could definitely see it winning.
And the other things that it had won was like it was nominated at awards of the Japanese Academy for best foreign language film.
Even Japan gave it more kudos.
Gave it a nominee, but for best foreign language film, so best film basically.
Oh yeah, basically yeah.
Whereas once again, it's like the things that we were calling out about the film is what the film was nominated for, other than directing and.
Yeah, they usually do that when they want to give something acknowledgement, but they don't want to put it with the real movies, quote unquote. They do that a lot. Just like how many times they snubbed Lord of the Rings movies just to give it to the last one, just because they knew. We're going to give it to the last one, okay, guys? We can't give it to all of them.
We can't give it to all 3.
Even though it was better than all the movies that actually beat them. Just the way it works. Though in this case, as I said, this movie is definitely a great film. Like, just a great film in general.
Like, Glenn Close's performance was actually really understated in this film. Lost out to Sally Field for Places in the Heart.
Does anybody even remember that movie?
No, like there are more references to The Natural than there are to Places in the Heart. I don't even know what Places in the Heart is.
That's a lot of films are like that.
Oh, but Best Picture that year was Amadeus.
I think this could have stacked up to Amadeus, to be quite honest. I really do. Like, it has a lot of the same thematic resonance in this film. Like I said, even if it is about baseball and it has baseball, it's very universal in what it's getting across. And it also makes the sport, like we said with the other movies, it makes the sport look good, which is it's a sign of a good sports movie when you don't make the sport look lame. It's impressive when it's a sport that doesn't exist, like, let's say, rollerball, but when it's a sport as storied as this one.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. She lost out in Best Supporting Role, Actress Role, to Peggy Ashcroft in The Passage to India.
I still don't know what that movie is.
Like, if I were to read the list of nominees in that category, like just the movies, it's A Passage to India, The Natural, Places in the Heart, Swing Shift, and The Pope of Greenwich Village. That was for Best Actress Role, where just those 5 movies.
I've
it's
heard
like
of some of them.
I think I heard The Pope of Greenwich Village, but that's because they make a joke about that in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That's it. And
yeah,
a lot of the other ones that beat it out were like Amadeus and The Killing Field. So those are basically that year was the sweepers of the Academy Awards.
I think this probably aged better than Amadeus, to be quite honest. Like I said, Amadeus is a fine movie, but I don't think it's better than this.
But what I was trying to actually find was what the Best Picture was that year. Mm-hmm. Which, because we were honestly surprised that that it wasn't even nominated for that.
Well, to be honest, like, it feels like over the years that the Academy and the public interest kind of splinter at some point, and they kind of go off in different directions. So it's not really that surprising.
Yeah, okay, I can see why. So Best Picture that year that The Natural wasn't nominated for. Amadeus, which one? The Killing Fields, A Passage to India, Places in the Heart, and A Soldier Story. Do you remember any of these films?
No. Two of them.
And The Natural was not nominated.
That's what I mean. Like, it just feels like it kind of divorced at some point, because you look at a lot of these movies, you're like, they're probably fine films, but they don't resonate like things like this do. There's got to be a reason for that something like this still
resonates with
even now
with people in popular culture, and even to this day,
even
people
now,
still make references.
Even
to
the
this film.
sport's not as big as it used to be. It still does. It was still a great movie, and it's still worth seeing even today. And that's why I will give it a 5 out of 5. I think it's a pretty perfect film, like, not just movie, film.
Yeah,
it's a film.
It's like, I'll agree with you. It's like we there's nothing we can really talk against the film. It was a really good film. There's no lowlights for this film.
I can't even pick
the highlights. We've already discussed them at length as our general impressions. It's like, it's just an amazingly well done film.
Yeah, and it holds up.
And it's also TriStar Pictures' first film.
That's a good one to start with. I'm pretty sure even they were surprised that they didn't get nominated for Best Pictures. Like, really? We didn't for this?
Yeah, it is like I said, it's the only. If this movie wasn't a 5 out of 5 picture, we wouldn't have just had a 5-minute conversation about how much of a travesty that it wasn't even nominated for Best Picture.
That's just insane to me that it wasn't even nominated, because, like I said, it's a movie that works on every level. There's nothing you can really say about it. Even if you don't like the sport, you're just still going to like it, because it's just that engaging of a story.
I'm going to make a very controversial take here, but I'm going to say that baseball is more entertaining to watch in film and television than to actually watch as a game. But as a storytelling device, it is always probably going to be the best of the sports movies.
Well, it's because of what film can do with baseball that, like, for instance, TV can't really, because you're always like...
No, just watching actual baseball.
You're zoomed out, you're not watching every angle. You can't see every, what I mean? Even on TV, you can't do that. It doesn't, because they don't know where the ball's going to go, for instance. So
exactly,
they can't do that. But when you're watching it in a movie...
No, I mean, it makes it more interesting to watch the fictionalized versions of the sport instead of watching the actual sport.
Yeah, because when you're watching in a movie, you have more control over every aspect of the game. In real life, you don't really know where to focus and all that. And to be quite honest, unless you're in real life and you have emotional investment in the team, it doesn't really pull you in as much.
Go Expos.
Something like that, yeah.
A team that no longer exists.
But anyway, I think that's all we really got to say about this one. There's really not a whole lot else to go on except that
We could continue gushing about it, but
It's a
yeah,
great movie
it
worth
is a great
seeing.
movie. Every performance is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say.
Probably one of the best baseball movies, even still.
Even
worth
still to
seeing.
this day, and it is a movie that will forever have influence on the game itself and on sports movies in general.
Yeah, and apparently outside of sports movies as well. So, yeah, there's that.
Well, you do have the iconic shot with him hitting the ball into,
Oh,
into the clock and into the...
Yeah. Everybody knows that one.
Yeah.
Even with the music swelling up. It's never going to die.
Okay.
All right, everybody. That's all we got for this one, and we'll see you next time we continue our cruise through this sports movie catalog of ours.
Yep. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural,